Welcome to Breakaway. I'm your host, John Root. I'm joined by Bryan Farnsworth. You might have listened to our Breakaway breakdown talking about ESPN's political double standard. We can only give you so much in those Breakaway breakdowns, so we thought we'd maybe do a little bit overtime. Really break down how basically ESPN has a political news organization that might be a little bit more radical than a place like CNN and MSNBC. And for people that might just be tuning into this, you didn't listen to the breakdown, you didn't listen to the short stuff that you should listen to, Mina Kimes is promoting a left-wing candidate in LA for mayor. A radical leftist, someone that basically said anybody that supported Kyle Rittenhouse himself and his mother were dangerous to society, and literally told people on her Instagram story to go and vote. And you might say, why is this such a big deal? ESPN came out, remember when ESPN started? They basically said, this is your outlet away from politics. No politics whatsoever. It was just sports. And then now when politics started seeping in and then flooding in, they said we have a no politics policy. So when Dan Le Batard in 2019 had some things to say about President Donald Trump, calling President Donald Trump racist and anybody who supports him racist. They came out and said, we have a no politics policy. You had the president of ESPN saying, we're going to get away from politics.
Which that was survival mode because obviously, 50% of their audience probably supported President Donald Trump. So you're having one of your main hosts say that 50% of your audience are racists. Yeah, that's not a good strategy, Cotton. So we'll see how that works out.
And this comes down to, too, it's Matt Berry, another ESPN talent that's on SportsCenter. You probably see him a lot with Sage Steele. If they posted an Instagram story or a photo or anything on social media with a conservative or Republican candidate, they would get blasted. I'm sure ESPN would have plenty to say about that. And there's a compare and contrast that we need to do here that people don't understand. This is not about us at Breakaway or John Root or Bryan Farnsworth saying, I just don't like this candidate. That doesn't matter.
I'm what I don't know anything about this candidate.
What matters here is there's a double standard. And it seems like with ESPN or even the left, if there wasn't a double standard, they wouldn't have standards at all. And it seems like if we're going to have a conversation about privilege, there's a left-wing privilege.
Absolutely.
Because that's where we're asking ESPN, you should say something about this.
But also, you make a really good point here. Why is it a privilege? And why is in corporate America today, why is there something such as a left-wing privilege? And the reason is because, remember, political preferences and political parties and beliefs are not a protected class. So in all the places, and look, I'm from Arizona. I have some respect for Barry Goldwater, and not to go too deep in on it, but like I could even say that the Title IX of 1964 Civil Rights Act maybe went a little too far on big government overreach. Whatever, that's a different topic for a different day. The thing is that under political policies like that, your political beliefs in the workplace are not protected. You do not have necessarily First Amendment rights at certain parts of the workplace. So that's fine. I'm actually completely okay with that. If somebody is like, hey, there's somebody who, all of a sudden is displaying, admiration for the Third Reich at work, we don't like that. They should be able to fire them. The difference is that in today's America, the reality we live in today is somebody, especially over the last 4 years, could say, I support President Donald Trump, which is an extremely mainstream belief, and you could end up getting fired for it, whereas you could go on any sort of swath of left-wing beliefs, and I can't think of any story I've heard of the last 4 years of somebody being fired for holding left-wing beliefs.
Another aspect of this conversation when we're talking about ESPN saying we have a no politics policy, it's had such a shift, especially to someone like Will Kane that I know and respect. Moved over to Fox and Friends after being on First Take with Stephen A. And I think what we can really appreciate in sports is agreeing to disagree. But at times, it seems like, especially when it comes to a political conversation, you have someone like Stephen A. that's just going to go off about vaccine, going to go off about police brutality. You're going to go off about race, and you have a bunch of people there, and especially the white people that are just nodding their heads. You have people that just need to step in line and then just agree. Someone like Will Kane was not like that. Said, if we're going to have a political conversation, I can be on the other side, because politics are in sports now. Once again, we don't like it, but it's there, so we should talk about it. You shouldn't just get one side, but this one side, once again, is being protected. So I know Will Kane has said, I feel like at times ESPN is kind of just, he was saying this years ago, that ESPN was okay with just the leftist argument, and that was it. So I think there was some great little back and forth. It seems like Washington Post was even calling Will Kane the resident conservative at ESPN. And, that put him in an interesting spot. And then he ended up moving over to Fox because he just felt like he had a little back and forth with ESPN to Fox, Fox to ESPN, back to Fox. And I just think you would need someone like Will Kane, I think, could take ESPN to the next level. And certain sports fans would feel heard, because if you're talking about politics, you might as well have both sides.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's where some people really just want to get back to the time of I don't want to know the political beliefs and opinions of the people who's giving me my sports. That's where it's similar to the NBA reffing. I look at the reffing that's been going on over the last little while, and everybody complains about it. It's like, the reffing's so bad. The reffing's so bad.
It's been fairly cheeks.
This is what's weird to me, though. When they start talking about, like, oh, well, Scott Foster this and Tony Brothers that, and I tweeted this out. I think it's weird that we know the names of the refs. That's weird to me, because why have we built this celebrity culture around refs? And I think it's feeding into the problem of these refs who clearly love their job, and they're a little bit of attention whores. That's how I view the ESPN situation. I don't want to know that, because look, I could throw it out there and go, oh, well, Peyton Manning, because I know a few things, he's more right leaning, and I like that ambiguity. I like that. I believe, because of personal stuff I've seen as social media has grown, that I go like, oh, well, JJ Redick's more left leaning. But you want to know the nice thing? JJ Redick doesn't get on. Actually, he has a couple times.
Yeah, JJ Redick said
he blasted Trump the other day.
He blasted Trump. He said some things about Fox News, and obviously that's another thing that just like goes in line with the way ESPN is.
Bingo. And it's just like, I wish it could get back to a point where it's just like, yeah, I could watch ESPN, and after turning off ESPN, I don't know where you lie politically, because guess what we talked about? We talked about, should Paulo Banchero go first overall? That's what I want. That's what I want from them.
But that's where I know Will Kane's gotten questions about, how do you feel like they handled the Jacob Blake situation? Like, you had teams sit out. You have Jalen Rose, once again, just spewing nonsense and lies out there that the guy died.
Let's be more honest than lies. Conspiracy theories.
And then this goes back to break down for everybody. Sage Steele is suing ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Suing ESPN over how they retaliated against her when she had free speech. I know you brought up when we had in the Breakaway Breakdown when she was on the Jay Cutler podcast, basically just saying, I should have my body, my choice when it comes to the vaccine. And then she also said a few things about former President Obama. So it seems like right now you have ESPN that's protecting certain candidates and a certain political party. And when it comes to how they've reacted in the past, we have to talk about that. Because clearly we know with Expose ESPN, that was a fantastic Sunday conversation that we had. You can go back and watch that on YouTube. You can also listen to it on Apple and Spotify. A former studio manager at ESPN said, I couldn't talk about anything, and I felt ostracized, and I felt basically discriminated against. And that's how Sage Steele felt. But look at some of these old ones. Jemele Hill, one of the worst people we've ever seen in sports media, just a sick human being, called former President Trump a white supremacist while he was in office. Received no sort of retaliation from ESPN.
Yep.
It was right away, they dilly-dallied for a long time, and then she needed to send out a few more tweets and a few more inflammatory podcasts or shows before they took some sort of action. And they didn't discipline her at all So it looks like ESPN didn't discipline her for that comment. Instead, ESPN suspended her when she later encouraged sponsors to boycott the NFL and ESPN partner. So it seems like she was just going out guns blazing. So
look, as an ESPN person, you can't be like, let's boycott the NFL. ESPN's not going to fly with that. They literally pay millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, to be able to, get the rights to Monday Night Football.
And then going back to Dan Le Batard, he called ESPN and their politics-free stance cowardly when he got in the face of President Trump and his supporters, calling them racist. So it seems like ESPN's been feeling the pressure, and they've cowered to the pressure. Mm-hmm. And they've allowed things like that to happen. And once again, that was in 2019. You have people like Howard Bryan. He called his employer at ESPN at the time racist for not having enough non-former athletes who are black men as analysts on studio pregame shows. You see what ESPN's doing now? Watch any show. The fact that J.J. Redick got hired was actually kind of shocking to me. But it's like J.J.'s good at a job, but it seems like everybody you see on the sideline, you're going to see on these pregame shows, these postgame shows, everything. It's all in this lens of leftism and wokeism and race.
100%.
And if you have anything from the contrary about that, I just want to see the president come out and say, here's exactly how our no politics policy is broken down. Because clearly it seems like it's wishy-washy.
Yeah, well, I mean, another example of all this has been one of the ones that struck out to me the most was when Jalen Rose got up and just lied his freaking butt off about police brutality and just lied about who the police are in America. And on completely separate note, I think Jalen and Jacoby is one of the dumbest sports shows to exist.
Yep.
I hold very little respect for anything that they talk about. But the issue is, as we've been stating, it has nothing to do with the fact of look, and maybe you and I actually disagree on this, Sean. If Jalen Rose or Mina Kimes or any of them want to, on their personal Instagram stories, go support candidates, I don't care about that. In fact, I think it would be wrong if they were suspended for doing that. I just want to be able to see the lack of the double standard. I want to be able to see Sage Steele or any of these people go on and just have a conversation with Jay Cutler, who is a Chicago Bears legend, and just have a conversation about what they believe personally. She wasn't there on behalf of ESPN. I get it. When you are standing on the sideline as an ESPN reporter, don't talk about politics. If you make it about yourself or your own personal beliefs, ESPN should absolutely kick you out because you're making it about you, your little narcissist beliefs. But when it's your personal time, I want Mina Kimes to be able to go and support who she wants to vote for LA mayor, even if I think that candidate is, and I don't know anything about the candidate. I know as much as what you've said. Even if that candidate holds every belief that I don't agree with, that should be Mina Kimes' prerogative. But the problem is that Curt Schilling and Sage Steele and all sorts of these people feel like they can't say anything on their personal time or they will lose their jobs.
Because I'm with you on this. I think individuals, we're Americans. We should be able to say how we feel politically. Mm-hmm. But it's only the left that can say that. And this comes down, once again, to ESPN. I'm not mad at Mina Kimes. Mina Kimes is as leftist as they come. It's definitely not as bad as Jamel Hill or Jalen Rose or Mark Jones or some of these other people that have gotten away with just absolute nonsense at ESPN and even gotten raised after they've said these things. But in general, if ESPN says we have a no politics policy, you have to stick to that. And if it seems like there's a double standard or some sort of hypocrisy, you have to speak to that. But it seems like right now they're just hoping that the news cycle just keeps going, which is very similar to, we got to just get political about this, very similar from the top down. The Biden administration has done the same thing. They hope that there's another thing that happens where there's deflection, there's distraction, and then you forget about the real issue, which is ESPN here.
Do you remember like a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I don't know, 6 weeks at most, we talked about literally how Mina Kimes is the most protected person in the sports media today.
Yeah, the Jeff Garcia.
The Jeff Garcia thing.
I put that when I posted a reel on my Instagram. I said, I'm probably going to be called racist and sexist because I call that Mina Kimes. Mm-hmm. Jeff Garcia, all he had to say was, I think somebody that hadn't played football shouldn't be able to be an analyst to this extent. take that how you will, but in general, just anybody else that hadn't played high-level football, you're going to get criticized because you just don't have that credibility and speaking from that sort of authority that other people do. So when you hear a lot of big names like J.J. Redick, he's going to go on ESPN and he's going to talk from a sense of credibility and authority on basketball.
And look, J.J. Redick, like, if you don't know, like, J.J. Redick is completely left-leaning.
Totally.
The dude went to Duke of all places, which is incredibly liberal. No, but it's like, it's okay to compartmentalize stuff. That's what I feel like a lot of conservatives today kind of are having a hard time with, of like, I don't care if J.J. Redick is left-leaning. The fact is, he's one of the best voices currently on the NBA. My problem would be if he gets on First Take or wherever, if he then invades the trust of I'm coming to J.J. Redick as the best current voice on NBA just topics, and if he then invades that trust and goes, well, now I'm just going to use my platform to spout my leftist politics at you, that's where I go like, okay, well, I'm done. I'm done listening to you. You've betrayed that trust that I have in you.
Yeah, and then even like we've had Bryan Urlacher on the show. He's talking about how Max Kellerman and the rest of First Take responded to him when he had something to say about Jacob Blake. Mm-hmm. And the difference between Jalen Rose and Bryan Urlacher is Bryan Urlacher was actually right. Jalen Rose said that Jacob Blake was shot and killed by police. Jacob Blake's still alive, and he also he's dropped all charges against the police officers. That happened just about a couple weeks ago. And then now we're seeing people like, J.A. Adonde. We can go down the freaking list here with ESPN. J.A. Adonde said that basically red states in the United States requiring voter ID is just as bad as the CCP torturing, raping, and killing Uyghur Muslims is in the Zhejiang province. When they were having conversations about the Olympics. ESPN had nothing to say about that. So that's all we're looking for here is ESPN to explain themselves. There's clearly a double standard. Mina Kimes, if ESPN just got rid of their no politics policy, it's like, sure, go for it. I'm not mad at Mina Kimes. I don't really like her takes at all. I don't enjoy the takes of a lot of people at ESPN. I can never get a job there. I feel like if I had all the talent in the world and they were just like, yeah, you got the talent, but the politics don't align, that's the way it works in sports media right now.
Yeah.
Also, it doesn't help that I got blonde hair and blue eyes. I look like this. I'm walking privilege. But in general, this comes down to ESPN. And if you're listening or watching this, hold ESPN accountable. That's all we're looking for because we need sports back to being unifying. We need sports being back to an outlet away from politics. We are sick of the double standards. We're sick of the hypocrisy. And we're sick of them talking about, they talk about bills. They talk about the Don't Say Gay bill on SportsCenter. And they did a moment of silence. It was a lie. They're lying to people. And that's why I'll finish up with this, Bryan. We don't watch really much CNN or MSNBC. Watch a little bit just to see what the other side has to say. Are they endorsing candidates?
No, I wouldn't go as far to say that.
No, but you have ESPN talent that are actually endorsing candidates. And that's where I think ESPN is more political than CNN and MSNBC because they are actually telling you, go vote for these people. Obviously, they're saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
But at CNN and MSNBC, they still want to have a certain standard of fairness, I guess, in reporting. It's a joke. And they're saying it without saying it at all. But you actually have people at ESPN talent saying, I like this candidate. This is why I like this candidate. Vote for them. You have CNN and MSNBC say we don't like the right. We like this. We endorse that. But we are not talking about endorsing individuals. It doesn't happen.
Do CNN and MSNBC reporters never endorse candidates?
I have never seen something like that as blatant as you see here from people like Mina Kimes.
Yeah, that's something I want to look into more. Well, I kind of have a question for you, and I know we want to be wrapping this video up, but in World War II, the Allies had to, the more Western world, the United States and Britain and whatnot, had to join forces with Stalin to defeat the Axis powers. Yep. So you had to become allies with somebody who you didn't want to. I look at, and I thoroughly see like something like Amazon and Jeff Bezos, and I want that to be broken up. However, is there a world where I go, you know what? Maybe I want Amazon to be able to, because they've been getting into the NFL world, maybe I want them to be able to use all that money and power that they've gotten, be able to buy up the majority of the streaming rights to these games and bleed companies like ESPN dry. It's just a question I have. Like, I don't know, maybe I want to see that. Maybe the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And maybe I could see a world where that competition ends up being good if we can get rid of the privilege that ESPN has because they are just the sports dominant network.
Well, the book Republicans Buy Sneakers Too by Clay Travis breaks this down really well. And everyone's wondering, why did ESPN just go so woke? Why did they go so political?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was ESPN, SportsCenter, that was a place you went for highlights.
Yeah.
But now we got social media where they're not going to be able to play the same highlights because people are going to say, I just got that from House of Highlights. I just got that from Ball is Life. I just got that from the NFL. And they said, what's going to keep us relevant? They started getting into politics. And they put little sprinkles of that in there and a little bit more. And then they got diversity, equity, and inclusion some more. And then they tried to buy the broadcasting rights for a lot of games. They put a lot of money into that. And then you know what hurt them? Was what happened over the past 2+ years. And a lot of people might say, like, oh, COVID. No, more people were at home than ever in the history of ESPN. So people should be tuning into that.
Oh, yeah.
But they went woke. They inserted divisive identity politics in there that made people tune out. Like, you've had conversations. You listening or watching, you've had conversations with people and you're like, I just don't even like that anymore. I talked to Dave Rubin the other day when he was in the office, and he's like, I just can't watch the NBA. I might watch a little NFL or something like that, but I'm done. I don't care for it anymore. So when it comes to places like Amazon, there should be a little bit more of a competition. But I've seen Amazon is doing that. And then you're going to see broadcasting rights that are going to end soon. What's going to happen with that? It's just like contracts with talent. What's going to happen? Are they going to re-up? Is it going to be worth it? We're going to see more things like the Manning cast. And then Joe Buck is basically doing that for golf. And I think that could be a fun little thing, that there's these alternate streams in places you're going to. Fox is going to go all in. Amazon's going to go all in. Nickelodeon, I think, provided a fun little outlet for some NFL games. So hopefully we see that more, because people are desperately trying to look for a different place in ESPN.
But it is tough, though, when ESPN is doing the right moves, though, because as you mentioned, the Manning cast is one of the best additions to sports in the last few years, and that is ESPN.
And that's why here, as we wrap up, it's like there's so many people that think things have to be just black and white. Certain situations like this, where if ESPN says we have a no politics policy, you should stick to that. But when it comes to ESPN as a whole, there's some aspects of ESPN we really enjoy, and that's okay. There's some aspects of the NBA that we really enjoy.
Yeah, I can call balls and strikes.
And that's the way I think it should be. So conservatives, when they're watching, conservatives, moderates, whatever you may be, if you have some sort of right-leaning, I think they get so upset and they're like, boycott. It's like their own version of cancel culture. It's like, hold ESPN accountable, but figure out ways that, you hit them in the pocketbook at times. Disney, it's owned by Disney. So Disney is the overarching power here that's pushing this nonsense, no doubt. And they specifically have an agenda too. But I can't plague ESPN as evil as a whole. The NBA, evil as a whole. There's a lot of things we don't like, but I think you got to stay in the fight with this kind of stuff and start promoting, like tune into the Manning cast. Be like, that's what I want to watch. And then they're starting to see that, and hopefully dollars make decisions. So if you keep tuning into the Manning cast and things like that, they're going to say, these other shows aren't working. Similar to Bomani Jones when he went over to HBO. We could have a full conversation about that, but people just don't enjoy that. So ESPN, finally, figure out your political double standard, and we need to hear answers from you, because it's unfair when you have people like Sage Steele, who's in a lawsuit, Curt Schilling that lost a job, and sports fans in general don't want to hear this kind of nonsense. And
Kurt Schilling didn't just lose a job. He lost the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. It's hurting people. Careers, livelihoods.
Legacies,
everything in between. ESPN, figure it out. But appreciate you guys watching. You got to subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the bell so you get notified for all that good stuff. We always have great non-woke sports talk and conversation. You can tune in on Apple and Spotify as well. Once again, too, if you don't want to see our faces, just listen to us. You can do that. Leave a 5-star review. Appreciate you guys watching and listening. See you next time.
Win. Puts it out.